The Berg actually, it sits in my family's blood because, obviously I was born in Cape Town, and it was the one race my dad really wanted to win. He actually trained really hard. We spent hours on the bank as a family. I was on the bank. My mom was driving, so my sister and I would tag along, and my dad would be, tripping the river with Maynard Marie, who's still a family friend of mine. I still actually go down and stay with him when I go to the Berg. He won the race, I think, 1988. He won the Berg. And my dad was always striving to win it, And, I guess, growing up on the bank, my first paddle in a canoe was actually down the Berg River at 6 years old. I think I was there by Lady Loch somewhere in that area because my dad wanted to trip it. So he got me one of these, we called it a guppy nowadays. Then it was like a flipper or something. And I bobbed down, and he was with a group of people, and some of them fell out, and I managed to get through, beginner's luck. And then now 42 years later, I go down that same section and I'm leading the Berg, There's something that comes, that was a good memory,
Yeah.
And
but tell us the story. I don't know the details. I remember when you were a junior and paddling and your dad was leading. I don't know what year that was, but when you first did the Berg, which wasn't necessarily your first Berg, but that first time when you were still a junior and he was leading. Tell us that story.
Yeah, there's actually a picture in the newspaper. I think I was 8 years old, and my dad had just won the second day. Was the only stage he ever won was the second day of the Berg, and he was planning to win it. I think that was 1986, and I just remember him finishing, and there was still juice in his juice bottle, and I think I was 10. Yeah, I think I was 10, and I said, gave me the juice bottle. I took the juice bottle and I'm sucking the juice, which I couldn't think of anything worse today, because I hate to know how he mixed his juice or whatever. It was probably just Coke and water and corn syrup or whatever, and there's a picture saying Hank McGregor sipping his dad's juice, maybe a future champion, and that came true. So yeah, in 1996 I lined up for my first Berg. I trained with my dad, and we did a couple of sessions, maybe definitely not the sessions that were required at that stage, because 3 weeks later I was representing South Africa at World Marathon Champs. So 2-hour session was that was long enough. And I remember I was seated in second row. In those days there was no prolonged time trial or anything like that. So I remember looking at my dad in the front row, and Robbie Herefelt and all the legends of the Berg at the time, and I managed to have a good start, jump out and run past him, just because I was training for marathons and nimble on my feet, run past. I put in first, and I actually was leading the Berg, and that was my first Berg in a glass boat. Managed to have a good portage, and being nimble on my feet and stuff, and run past the front row and managed to put in first. And I remember it was on SABC TV, and I was leading the Berg, and my dad was in the diamond, and it was Michael Cheeseman and Daniel Conradi, the late Daniel Conradi, and the second bunch was the big wigs of Herefelt and Graham Monteith and a couple other guys and I was just lapping it up, all this, the people and the shouting and I was leading the Berg, and I thought, I'm working with my dad, like a Tour de France domestic type of thing, and I paid the price because
burnt matches.
Yeah, I think I burned a couple of boxes. I don't know about matches. I think I burned a couple of boxes, and I remember getting to Squawky which is pretty much not even halfway of day one. And I saw the people on this bridge, and it was like this low-lying bridge and whatever. And then I was just off the front bunch. I was just behind. My dad and I were together. We were lying, I think, 5th and 6th. And then I shouted to my dad, I was like, is this the finish? Is this the finish? And he looked across at me. And he's like, we're not even halfway. And I literally, that was it. I think juice bottle was empty. Everything was done. Tank was done. Reserve tank was empty. And I limped from there to the finish. I think I finished 11th on day one. I saw 11th on day one because I bled for the next 2.5 hours. And those are memories that I never forget.
Yeah.
You know? Those are the ones, you know, like the wins have come, you know, obviously winning 15 out of 18, you know, you remember the losses. You know, I remember the one I lost to Jacques. I remember the one I lost to Andy, you know, in the later years. And those ones, they stick with me. The wins, you know, you just get like a smile on my face, like you'll see maybe during the Berg, and it would be like, I remember that interval there, or that person, or that bunch working against me, or a breakaway, and when I won my first Berg, I won the first day, and there was a lot of portaging, and it was super low. I mean, it was like just really, really low. We were jumping out here and there. I remember Martin Dreyer training for Doozy at the stage. He ran from the start, like literally from the first weir, he just ran to the next weir. And I remember getting to the like Del Yosefats and shooting the weir, scraping down, whatever. And the next one, Martin Dreyer was putting his boats in, like a typical non-stop Doozy. And the rules were very vague at the Berg. It was like, I think it was like 50 meters of the high water mark, but the high water mark in the Berg can be 2 kilometers wide when it's flooding, you know. And I just remember us like just climbing over trees, falling in the river. And I mean, those days, the river was a lot more dense with trees. And obviously from the droughts and the farmers, there's been a lot of cutting and preempting, you know, droughts and stuff. And the river doesn't look anything of what it was in the past, you know. There's just this avenue of trees running through the swathlands, you know. Now it's quite barren on each side. But my memories are still tree block after tree block after tree block, and what are you going to do? And that was the Berg, you know. There was no shortcut. 240 Ks is 240, you know, regardless. And now when I race, I almost feel like I have a lot of muscle memory through those hard days.
Autopilot.
And the body sort of like, I'm a lot more reserved now than when I used to race in the early days where I was more brawn. I think now maybe a little bit of wisdom comes with age.
A lot of age.
I'm not too sure how much wisdom, but definitely like I learned to hold back and be less aggressive and, you know, save your matches until you need them, you know, because you never know when you're going to make a mistake. And, you know, I made a mistake on day 2, took basically the wrong line, ended up falling out twice just because I started trying too hard.
Was that this year?
This year on day 2. And, you know, like that's where you've saved yourself, saved that box of matches. Now you need to use it to make up the gap, you know. And I think that's what I've learned, you know. But
so have you just given your competitors the best advice that if they want to beat you, just sit on your wave and follow you and then do whatever they can?
No, I don't know about that. Like,
or is
is
there more to the Berg?
There's more to the Berg, you know. Like you know, the Berg's hard enough just to finish it, you know. And I think the people that have done 20s and the 30s and the 40s Berg, some even done 50, you learn to work with the Berg.
Yeah.
You know, you work with the low water level, the limited flow, and you just hold yourself back. You well like hydrated throughout the 5 hours, sometimes 6, sometimes 7. I think it's scary. I mean, you finish the second day of the Berg and like aren't kilometers wise, you're not even halfway.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's quite a mind thing, you know, to deal with. The cold, the wind.
Do you think that the challenge of what the Berg is what's kept a lot of people away from it currently? Like in, let's call it the modern era, if you want, of paddling. Like it's very long and it's very hard. Are other events more attractive? Does the length of it scare people away?
Well, I mean, just, you know, when I was a junior, marathons for a junior was 21. There was no such thing as under 23, and in the senior race was 40 or 42 Ks. So like it was marathon for marathon, you know, you either did the half marathon because you were a junior, or you did the full marathon because you were a senior. That there was no in between, you know. Now our marathons has come down to 29 Ks for the senior race, and I mean the junior race still sits at around 21, but you know, to suddenly like get your head around the fact that you can be racing for 74 Ks just for one day is literally like the whole Fish River Canoe Marathon
In one day.
in one day without the flow
Yeah, yeah.
and tree blocks,
Yeah,
you know.
Some portages in between.
So like it's just a mind thing, you know, and to actually train for it, you really have to focus on it and actually sacrifice other shorter events. Marathon champs, you know, you're going to lose a little bit of speed because you're doing all this ultra and distance stuff, and I think that's why people have shied away from it. Maybe if the marathons were the same distance it was, you know, in the late 90s and stuff, then I guess things would change. I mean, my winning time for World Marathon Champs in 2003 was 3 hours 5, somewhere around there, 3 hours 8.
Over 3 hours, yeah.
Now, you know, you on the 2 hour or even sub 2, depending if the course is a little bit shorter, or it's a big difference, you know. It's to suddenly so cool, you're going to go paddle for another hour doing the same thing. So yeah, I think we've had to adapt as marathon paddlers, but those signature races that we've had, the Berg was the #1 singles race in the country, was the biggest prize money in the country, and I think only in the late 2000s did it suddenly overcome, the doozy overcame with prize money itself. I think in the early days, somebody won a car for winning the Berg. He actually, wow. I mean, I think it was a VW Beetle.
That was worth it.
But I mean, you race 4 days, you leave with a car.
Yeah.
I mean, what other race in the country?
Yeah.
I don't even know which other sport you could literally leave with a car unless you win the lucky draw, you know. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The Berg's always held that status as it's always been K1, you know, like doozy is K1, K2, you know. The Berg's an individual race. It's 4 days, it's tough. You know, even if when they did the 2 years where I think it was they did it as a team, you still had to finish it in a single, you know.
Right.
It's never been a doubles race. And I don't think, it's not really a doubles course, you know. Maybe day 4, but the rest of the days, it's tough in it. You know, it's windy, narrow, tree blocks. Oh, I couldn't think of going down there in the double. So yeah, the Berg's, it's a tough race. I think the only thing that comes close to it probably is the PE to East London.
Yeah.
It's pretty much this identical distance. And then obviously you got nature, the ocean against you. You know?
But let's jump back to when you said you were 10, 11, 12 years old on the bank with your dad paddling. You now fast forward in that position of a dad with your lighties. What's a different perspective? I know they weren't there with you this year, but they have been in the past. Like, how do you see things differently being in that different position 30 years later?
Yeah. Actually, a Facebook memory came up of me finishing the Berg, and I actually had little Torsten with me, and like it was at the finish before the prize giving, and our biggest fear was him falling in the water, you know. I remember Pippa saying to me, she was like nervous, you know, she's watching me trying to second, and Torsten slips down the bank, because I mean those banks are so steep, so slippery. So yeah, I think that's like my memory of him being at the Berg. But I sort of had like planted the seed once or twice to Torsten, and Max not really too interested, I don't think, at this stage. But and Torsten's like, no, I've watched it on YouTube, Dad. It's way too tough. That's not for me, you know. He's doing his guppy 5Ks. Yeah, no, he's like, I think he's hoping that the race maybe isn't around when he's racing in whatever
on the
6 years time, you know. But I would like to do one maybe with Pippa, just as like a husband and wife, you know, chaperone her down, and you know, those tree blocks, they can be dangerous, they can be tricky, and you know, coming from where we come from, meaning Natal, even Gauteng, you know, out of Western Province itself, we don't ramp trees.
Yeah.
It's quite a unique thing to do, you know, and doesn't seem like a hard thing, but when the tree's sitting, you know, 3-4 inches out the water, and you know, it's this like log. You know, a rock, you would go around it or scrape it, or you know, this you got to ramp it, you got to hit it, and if you mistime it, you peg it.
Potentially could end your race though.
100%. You know, you can snap a paddle, which is pretty much what happened to Josh. I mean, so like stuff like that, pegging, falling onto the tree, doesn't matter what paddle shaft you got, something's got to give, and carbon's probably going to give before the human body, you know. And accidents happen like that. You know, you literally up the creek without a flipping paddle shaft or a blade or anything. So many times you put your paddle in the water and going through the tree beds and stuff like that, there's, you know, you end up, you know, getting stuck. Hopefully you don't fall out, you know. So,
and is that what kind of, not those things specifically, but those challenges, is that what makes the Berg unique for you? Like, not unique, you've done races all over the world, but is that it holds a special place for you because there's so many different challenges in the river?
Definitely. I think anyone that can finish the Berg, and I can say this pretty much because I've raced so many races around the world, river races, canoe races, surf ski races, you pretty much can do anything. You know, I remember going to race the Avon descent in Australia, and 2-day race. Also goes through a place called the Tea Trees, which is like super windy trees, overhanging trees, like winding through these things. And for me, I felt like I was just doing another Berg, because they normally have it in the first weekend of August, and the Berg's always been the middle of July. So almost felt like the Berg, you go there and they like, everyone's trying to explain what the tea trees are like, and for me it's like, geez, this is just another, feels like I'm on day 2 of the Berg, you know. These aren't so bad, the trees, you know. So yeah, I just feel like you become so hard, you become so fit, and you suddenly trust your body that you can make it, you know. You suddenly have confidence, and you know, the Berg, it can make or break you. So many times people get sick year after year, and you know, I don't think it's the water quality or anything like that. I just think the system, you've emptied your reserve tank, you've tried too hard, and it normally happens to the racing snakes. And I can say that because they're the guys that have pushed themselves out of their comfort zone to just make their way up the finishing ladder, and they basically, their brain was stronger than their body on that day. And the next day, you know, you go to sleep, you're 100%, and you wake up 1-2 in the morning, and I've witnessed it, you know. I've suddenly heard people getting sick, and I was like, geez, who is that, you know, like, and it's not food poisoning, it's nothing, it's just your system is broken, you know, and it's literally because you've pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. So it just shows you how strong your brain is, because you outdid your body, you know.
And yet those that make it to that finish line get like a whole new suit of armor or whatever it is, become more stronger sense of confidence.
Definitely, you know, you individually, you go up at prize giving, everyone goes up. It's quite a tradition. You get your medal, you know, you get called out. I feel like you accomplished something, you know. I've been at prize giving and seen people crying, you know, like to collect their medal, and it just shows you how tough it was for them, you know. Some people have done maybe a couple hours longer than I've taken to do it, but it's meant so much to them. It's been such a journey to train for it, do the pre-races, and their systems are broken. And the first thing they normally say afterwards is like, as soon as I'm ready, I'm coming back next year, you know. And I'm like, are you going to come back, Hank? And I'm always like, I ain't coming back, you know.
I'm done.
For a Durbanite, you know, sunshine, we used to, you know, warm weather and
Cold
stuff.
weather, wind,
You're out
rain.
there, you know, you look at the temperature and you're like, it's pitch black. I mean, we started day 3, you're trying to put your splash cover on in the dark. I mean, it doesn't, no other race you're doing unless you
Brain doesn't make
prepping
sense
for,
to your brain.
yeah, for non-stop doozy or something where you're prepping in the dark. Here you're prepping and they're calling you 5 minutes to the start and there's pitch black. You're walking down with your phone so you don't fall and trip over yourself, you know. And you've got 74 k's ahead of you, mist. You know, we're not used to paddling in mist. You know, you're going down rapids in mist. You can't see more than 50 meters ahead. I mean, day 3 we lost the front bunch. You know, and I thought, oh, we'll just sit 50 meters behind the front bunch, work together, so you're not jousting so much with guys. And the next minute I got a time check, you're a minute 50 behind. I was like, where did they go? Well, obviously we took a wrong channel, had to jump out, put back in. They must have got through. But I mean, you're limited because of eyesight, and you can't hear anyone. You just see maybe in front of you a little bit, and then the next minute your bunch has disappeared. You look back and you're like, well. So it's quite a unique thing to go through, but that's the Berg, you know what I mean? It's definitely one of those races. It's a bucket list.
Yeah.
So many people have done it. So many people have come back and did it again just to see if they could better themselves. And for some reason, yeah, I've come back 18 times. And
any one standout special for you? Any one of the 18, 15 wins? Any one particular?
I think there was one 20, obviously the first one I won was obviously something I won't forget, you know, that's just that accomplishment and, you know, self-belief that, you know, like, you know, it's one thing winning the first day, I lost the second day. I mean, I got delivered in the second day. The guys caught me, you know, what you start with, what you finish on day 1,
unique,
you know, you start a lapse time on day 2, you've got 49 Ks ahead of you. It doesn't seem that far, you know, when you're playing with the 75s and the 62s and the 60s, you know, it just stages, it's the shortest, but now you're on your own, you know, you make 1 or 2 mistakes, front bunch suddenly caught back up, I got worked over, and then, you know, I was fighting to stay on the bunch, you know, I fell out, I made mistakes, trying so hard, and then to win day 3, and then obviously I won day 4, you know, it's just, I've watched the Berg almost evolve from the time trials to the prolongs to, we had to do time trials on day 4, we had to do, at one stage we were doing time trials on day 3, individual time trials. You know, it's like, it's definitely changed, but I'd say 2011 was probably my best win.
Okay.
Was the biggest, one of the biggest Bergs with entry numbers. I think was supposed to be capped at 350. I think they got to 370 or 380 entries. Sponsored, I remember then, big sponsorship, big prize money, big team events. And, you know, my dad always said to me, like, you know, day 3 is one of those days where you hang tough, you know, you got to survive. You can't let the front bunch go. Everyone's tired, but it's cutthroat. Don't make mistakes. Don't do anything stupid, whatever, like that. And for some reason, something clicked in my mind. I was like, you know what? Well, I'm going to do what some people don't do. I decided to break away on day 3. So I got to 30 Ks, or I think it was like the 35K mark, you know, and I was like, wasn't halfway yet. I threw it down and paddled on my own for the next 40 Ks pretty much. And
so tell us what that's like, because I was going to ask you earlier when you said a lot of people spend more hours than you out there, and sometimes you get lost. And is there ever a sense on a river like that, or in the dark or whatever, where there's, I use the term loosely, like loneliness? Is it lonely out there? You don't know if you may be in the right way, in the right direction, and you don't know how far to go or to be, unless you only didn't have a GPS or whatever. Like, or is it just focus on performance and head down and grinding?
No, it's, you know, like the novelty wears off quite quickly when you're on your own. You know, like, everyone's like, well, if you break away, you know, you're winning. Yeah, sometimes you know, it's like there's just this noise that comes over your brain of like, it's like you're on the wrong TV channel, you know, the radio station is just this, and your brain's just like, why are you doing this? What are you doing? What are you here for? Why are you here? You know, you're hurting yourself. This is self-induced pain, you know, like, why are you doing this? And then like something, you know, on the other shoulders, like, well, you prove the critics wrong, you know, like you're not that old, or you're still young enough, or you know, you can defy the odds of, like, nobody breaks away on day 3 deliberately and sets to paddle away from the front bunch, you know. And for me, it was like, I'm going to do this, you know. And
so the voices were there, but just the one which you chose to listen to.
Pretty much, you know. And you know, after an hour of being on your own,
you've answered a lot of questions.
You've answered a lot of questions. You can't see the bunch chasing you. I remember there was a power boat, the police boat and TV boat was sort of with me on some of the channels and the long pools, and you hear this drone of the engine, and then sometimes I'd just like accelerate, and it was a change of tone in the engine, you know. It makes you feel like, okay, because didn't know if I was going faster or not, you know what I mean? The GPS didn't have a GPS.
Didn't exist.
So, you know, but then if you heard the engine, that means the gap. So I was like, okay, that's an acceleration, you know. But, you know, after 3 hours on your own, you know, the body's hurting, you know.
That's tough.
The brain's hurting, you know, and you those questions, you know, why are you doing this? Suddenly become more relevant and become more dominant, you know, and the mindset is like sort of shifting towards like the negative, you know. But you know what? Finish that stage, take the win, stand on the stage podium, open the bottle of champagne, and look around. And if your opposition looks way tighter than you feel, it's pretty satisfying, you know.
Sure.
And you felt like, okay, I hurt them. I think I hurt them more upstairs than like physically, you know. And for somebody to just showing you like, that's confidence for somebody to go on his own when I had no reason to it, because I was winning, you know, on time. So it wasn't like I was just showing them that like I wanted this more than anything, you know. I wanted to show that that I deserve to be there, you know.
Putting it all on the line.
Yeah, I was, you know, the year before I'd make the marathon team. There's a few people, you know, like Travis Wilkinson, and I'm mentioning him because he stood by my side, and like the selectors, like South African selectors, pretty much doubted my ability in 2010 to say that you're not good enough to represent our country individually. You know, you can paddle doubles. Even though I won the current South African K1 and K2, you know, they didn't believe that I was good enough to do it. And this was a year later, and I chose not to go in the team just for personal reasons. And a year later, I'm doing the Berg, and I had won the South African Marathon Trials, so I was going to go represent South Africa. And I just did K1, just going to do individual, and I just wanted to show that, you know, the world that I was coming to race, I'm still here. You know, I was older than most people at the time, and I was just wanted to show like I'm still here and I mean business. And you know, to break away, win the stage. I won the Berg that year, and I went on to World Champs, and I broke away in the World Championships that year, and I got like a 2-minute lead, and it brought back day 3 of the Berg. Was sort of like I prepped myself, you know, and I was fighting the same sort of mental demons, and that's when I downed tools in the World Champs, and everyone just couldn't believe it. And you know, the commentators, something's gone wrong. What's happened to Hank McGregor? He suddenly stopped. But I made a conscious decision then that I could win it on an end sprint, or I could win it by breaking away. I showed the world I could break away. And in the middle, to down tools and actually say, okay, right, let's do a restart. Come on, guys, I've given you a second chance. And I ended up winning the end sprint, you know, and it came literally from the Berg. Like, people don't understand, but the Berg hardened me up to be able to perform on an international world stage. I mean, there were internationals racing the Berg, but to actually harden yourself up mentally, physically, yes, definitely, without a doubt.
sure.
I mean, you're a fitter person, you
Yeah.
know. But I think just from then, it just shows you like the brain actually owns the body, you know.
Yeah.
Very often, the Berg allows the brain to basically weaken and the body to take over. And you know, I still feel every stroke, without a doubt. You know, like people will say, "Oh, you don't look tired," or you know, I've paddled the same distance.
Feel the same.
I'm just as tired, pretty much.
Processing it in a
it's
different
just
way.
I process it in a different way, and maybe mentally enables me to recover quicker. You know.
So, as someone who hasn't ever done the Berg and being inspired to do it by what you say and the stories you say, but am I hearing that finishing the Berg is not the medal, it's the confidence that you have in your own abilities after the Berg that is probably the biggest award you can get from doing the Berg?
Definitely. You know, physically, yes, you do change, but mentally, you suddenly have the self-belief, self-confidence that, hey, I can do this. And everything else seems like, not going to say like Mickey Mouse or whatever, but when you look at like the distances,
if you've done the Berg, you can
after the Berg, you know, you just feel like, hey, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the Breakaways, which is pretty much the next signature race in the Western Cape, and it's like, hey, that is way doable for me. I've done the Berg, I can do it. And you know what, I'm doing it in a double. That's even easier.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing it with somebody else to share the load. You know, and then you've got the Fish, which is the next river race, and you're like, jeepers, the distance
free flow
suddenly becomes so doable, and it gives you that physical confidence that you can do this, you know. And then, you know, I know guys like Martin Dreyer, and obviously I'm raced with him in the doozy, and you know, most people just think he can run with a boat, but I mean, he's also, I think he got third in the Berg the one year. He used to use the Berg as his build-up to the doozy. Doozy was obviously in January, so there was like the 6 months.
Yeah.
But he had a huge 6 months to hone his running skills, river ability, but he really had the Berg in his back pocket. He had banked it.
Yeah.
He had banked the distance. Now he could just hone it. And I mean, he was an incredible, you know, doozy champion winning, I don't know, 7 doozies, you know, and people, you know, I mean, Andy's done the doozy, won the Berg, same year, calendar year. Just shows you, you know, like there's a lot of people that have done it, capitalized on it, and you know, it's not something we should shy away from. You know what I mean? It's something that you should almost strive towards as a goal, like a personal goal, as well as like a physical goal, because afterwards you're a better person. You know, you don't leave the Berg, you know, unfit. You pretty much leave it, you know, and also say you don't get injured from the Berg. It's not an injury-prone race. You know, you're not portaging, you're not running, you're not out there, you're not going to be twisting ankles. It's not like from that. It's not a taxing on the body. It's just physically draining. That's what it's taxing. Yeah. So you're just building this incredible fitness base, and then from then on, the rest of the year it just seems so doable. And just, you know, you banked it.
So does that mean the question that you hate to answer? Does that mean you're going back next year?
I don't know, you know, like almost feel like I've, you know, 18's a good number, but
19's better.
You know, when you're sitting at prize giving and you know, you're watching the elders of the Berg going up, and they, you know, they've completed their 30th or their 25th or their 31st, you know, and you're getting like a bottle of brandy or 20-year brandy or a 25-year brandy or whatever. Like, that's an accomplishment, you know. Anyway you look at it, you know, never mind, you know, the 50s or 51 Bergs and stuff like that, you know, Willem Giel and, you know, Yanni Mahaba, you know, I mean, cheapers. I mean, he's quite something. I mean, to do 50-odd Bergs and still be, you know, sane enough to actually understand what you've accomplished, that's quite something, you know. But I just, for me, maybe 20 would be a good stopping number.
Nice round number.
You know, to say, cool, you know, like 20 Bergs. I think I'm on 18 or 19 doozies. I could be almost on a par with that. So maybe a 20 is a good finish number, just to say that I've done it. maybe next year I could do it with my wife if she wanted to. I don't know.
Maybe
and
not
maybe
doing this.
maybe with my son one day. I don't know how old you have to be to do the Berg, but could be something just to tick that box and say I've done 20. Like I don't know about counting the wins. When Hereford had won 6 Bergs, I remember people saying it's impossible to beat that record. And to have won 15, people say it's impossible. Nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
If you have the mindset, everything's doable. It's just going to take you
A long time.
Or if you haven't won one yet, you're going to have to win 16 in a row. It's to break it. I remember when I equaled the record of 6. I wasn't the record holder.
Had to go one more.
It's only fair to say that you have to, out of respect for Robbie, we were equal record holders, but he did it first, so I wasn't the record holder. I just equaled it, and we actually ended up racing each other. He came back, which was
to defenders.
You know what I mean? Which was such a cool honor to have him on the water and stuff, and I mean, he's just watching him. Yeah, he's so fluent and so smooth in the water. You can understand why he's won so many, But yeah, look, let's see. It's a year from now. Well, actually, it's not. It's less than a year.
Less than a year.
And anything can happen. But if I'm healthy enough and physically don't have any problems, you might see me on the start line.
So, message to the organisers: get your 20-year brandy ready. Your 20-year-old.
No, touch wood. You can't count any
true.
finishes before you finish. And like that's the thing about the Berg. I remember chatting to Tom Lovemore. I mean, this year, day 3, we all finished together. Great, Jeremy Marv and Tom, and he was at that stage vying. He was in 3rd place, and he didn't get to start the next day because he had basically overcooked himself maybe on the 3rd day. Maybe he had gone really hard on the 2nd day, and his system was just broken. Didn't arrive on the 4th day, and neither did Anders Hart, who was coming 5th at this time, 4th at the time, I think, 4th or 5th. And I mean, that just shows
to your point of how valuable a finisher's medal is.
It's never over. Heinrich Slums actually said to me, we were getting a massage afterwards on day 3. That's one of the benefits of the Berg. They have like the varsity students are there, and you can get a massage afterwards. And he was lying sick, and he said to me, you know what, Hank, I'm going to get a gold tomorrow. So I was like, sheesh, that's confident, like just it's a long way tomorrow. So he goes, no, not because I'm going to maybe earn it. Is just by default. So I was like, what do you mean by default? He says, one of you top 5 won't drive at the start. So I was like, are you serious? He says, Hank, go look at the past. He said, one of you overcooked it today. He says, I'm not saying you did. I'm not going to jinx you, but somebody overcooked it. True to his word, we arrive at the start of the 4th day. He comes past and he goes, I'm not in 5th place. He says, I'm in 4th. He jumped 2 overnight just because, and that just shows you how taxing that race is on the body. So I'll never take it for granted. I'll never just say, yep, I'm going to get 20.
Good one.
It's you got to earn it. So yeah, still, if 20 is a good number to do, let's see.
We'll see you at the finish line.
Shot grab. Thanks for your time, bro.